Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our Parents and Carers Live. So today we've got a fantastic presentation for you, and then we'll be answering some questions at the end. So yeah, today we're going through everything you need to know about the UCAS deadline, the actual application to union, also some things to know about being at university as well. So we've got a great guest with us today. As you can see, I'm not on my own on this screen. So Dave, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. My name's Dave Hollis, and I'm currently Senior Student Recruitment Event Manager at NTU, and I've worked in student recruitment now for about 12 years. So yeah, great to be with you tonight.
So definitely an expert in the recruitment process, and here today to shed a little bit of light if you're unclear about what's to come in the next few months. So as I mentioned, we are doing a quick presentation for you this evening, but if you do have any questions for Dave, just pop them in the comments section and we will get round to them at the end. So yeah, feel free to ask away, and then we've got some time at the end just to go through them. So I'll pop the presentation on the screen and over to you, Dave.
Thanks ever so much, Katie. So so this presentation really is going to cover preparing for university and what parents and carers can do to really help prepare their students for that transition from going into university. Some things that you might not have expected, some tips in here that hopefully you might not have seen before, or you might have a vague idea of. But just to start with, wanted to give you a little bit of context of where we are in terms of the UCAS and application cycle. So we've still got about 2 months before the UCAS deadline coming up on the 25th of January 2023, and that's for people who are looking to actually start at university in September of 2023. Just to sort of stress with this, I mean, schools and colleges have their own deadlines, so there shouldn't be any real pressure on sort of your students, dependents, children right now in terms of application and having to get things ready. They should be doing things like personal statements. Schools and colleges will have to sort of like sign off their application with a reference, so they should be on at them to sort of like keep on track, seeing what version of personal statement they're up to. So we should be absolutely fine there. But just to sort of say, applications are still taken after this point by universities, but there's no real guarantee of an offer. And they are considered as late applications after this point. And for some of the more popular courses, certain universities have those spaces most likely be gone. So there's no guarantee of an offer there. If you're still undecided, and you know we're seeing more and more students now who are applying later on in the year when they sort of got a better idea of the results and they know their results and they feel they've done better than expected and want to go to university, then something called clearing could be a good option for them. So you might have seen this around about August time in the media, sort of billing it as like the scramble for university places. I think this sort of the negative phrase is, but actually this is effectively clearing. So it's where all universities offer any remaining spaces they've got on courses out to everyone. And there's a bit of a move around from students who might have done better than expected to go to university, or might not have done as well as expected, but still got enough to get into a university. So again, there's not that pressure if people want to apply later on in the year. We've also got some great new video guides. So if you have a look at the sort of URL short link I'll put in there, your university application, I think it's appearing on the bottom of the screen there. There's video guides covering things like personal statements, applying to university, and the UCAS cycle. So they're really sort of helpful videos there to have a look, and if you need any more information and support with that. But in terms of what we're here to talk about tonight, some of the top tips and ways in which you can sort of best prepare for that transition to university. Wanted to start with student finance. A lot of universities, they include this in their UCAS cycle presentation and application to university presentation, but it's not strictly part of it. But it is such an important part because so many students need to access it in terms of supporting themselves financially at university. 2 big types of funding covered with student finance, the main one being a tuition fee loan. So that's money that you get to cover your course costs. And then there's the maintenance loan, and that covers your living costs. Now, tuition fee loan set, I think at the moment it's £9,706 is the maximum you can get from that, and most, if not everyone's pretty much entitled to that. Maintenance loan is a little bit different, and actually it's done on your income, your household income it's assessed on. So there's a set amount that you get, but anything on top of that is income assessed on household income. So my first couple of points there, know your entitlements is the first one to come to. If you Google student finance income calculator, you can have a look for yourself and actually get an idea of what budget that you might have for your maintenance loan to actually cover things like accommodation costs, as that's what a lot of students actually use their maintenance loan for, to cover accommodation costs and living costs. But also as well, we sort of stress this, to know your deadlines. So student finance applications usually open end of January, beginning of February, for students who are looking to start in September 2023. The reason we say this is that I've seen 4 A-star students apply for student finance and don't think they have to apply for it until they actually start at university. That's not the case. The main bulk of the information you need to support from the application doesn't need you to tell them what university that you're going to. So some students, they don't decide on their university choice until May. So again, they just fill that information in retrospectively. The main information that you need to provide, it takes about 9 to 12 weeks to get that application done. So it's something that we say, get it done as early as possible, even if you have to change the information, even if you change your university options afterwards, then at least it's the main part of it's done. But really with that, in terms of knowing your entitlements, and the next point around that, sort of creating a budget plan, sort of understanding and thinking about the kind of lifestyle that you want. And a big part of this is going to be seeing how far your maintenance loan will stretch in terms of your accommodation, which I'll, spoiler, will come on to in another slide. But also as well, thinking about cost of living, course costs as well. For courses like art and design, you're going to have increased course costs for things like painting kits if you're doing sort of like fine art and stuff like that, and also books as well, texts that you're going to need for things like any sort of social sciences, business courses, politics courses, etc. And with that as well, if it's looking like there's a bit of a gap between what you're getting from student finance and what your sort of outlay could be, how then can you sort of supplement your income? So with that, it's, for me, I had a part-time job at Tesco's before coming to university. I looked to transfer my branch through to where I was studying to make sure that, I had that guaranteed income. I could still get some hours in at a Tesco sort of where I was studying at university. It might be that that's applicable to yourselves, and you work for a bigger company and are available to do that. If not, we'll talk about it further in another slide, but our employability team, they're great at finding local part-time jobs in the city, and there's plenty of part-time work going at Nottingham, at NTU, with the student ambassador scheme that we've got as well, that we've got about 600 students on our books currently just for marketing admissions alone. So that's regular work to help to increase their income. Also as well, the summer before you head to university, once you finish your exams and your BTECs or your A levels, do as much work as you can. For me, if I was doing a 2.5 day a week at Tesco, I did sort of 6 days and did the Sundays to get double time as well. Just build up as much income as possible if you can with part-time work before you sort of head off to university. But also part of that is researching how you can make your money go further. One of the best things about being a student is that you get so many discounts on different bits, from restaurants, from retail, also things like travel as well. There's a young person's rail card. There's also, you can sort of there's deals with bus companies in the cities to sort of like get discounted bus travel if your commuting is going to be a big cost for your maintenance loan. So there's a lot of ways to make your money go further. There's a lot of apps out there as well. So as I say, if you do a Google in terms of sort of student discounts, it will bring up all the websites, all the apps that give you an idea of what's available to you in your respective cities. Moving on to, I sort of hinted at it from accommodation, and as well as sort of looking at how much the accommodation costs, it's understanding sort of like what's on offer really. Typically, from a university accommodation perspective, you've got at the more affordable end, you'll find you've got usually it's university owned accommodation, which is shared bathroom, shared sort of kitchen facilities, and you're sharing with up to sort of like 9 other people, and your costs are reduced with that. And then you've got, at the upper end of the scale, sort of private providers, studio flats, ensuite accommodation. You're living on your own sort of kitchen, but obviously you're paying top end for that effectively. One of the things to sort of what I put there on the board to keeping an open mind is that when you've seen one university accommodation, and many of you've probably been to open days by now, you've pretty much seen them all. You realise one of the things that shocks a lot of parents when they see them for the first time is that actually they're not that big. And you can see in the picture I was trying to sort of give the impression there is that your desk, your sort of bathroom, your toilet, your bed is all pretty much located in one space. And you might find that actually, your students moving to university have got a bigger bedroom than the accommodation they're living in. So keeping it in perspective is understanding what's on offer there, but also keeping an open mind. When I applied for my accommodation at university, I got my third choice. So I applied for 2 ensuite options and then got knocked back, and I actually had to share my accommodation with 9 other people. I had shared bathroom, shared kitchen facilities. I mean, I haven't got an ensuite at home, so I don't know why I thought that was like, some big thing and some massively important thing to me. I actually had an amazing time, and I made great friends with the 9 other lads that I sort of lived with at university. And actually, I wouldn't have changed that for the world. So, you might not get your first or even your second choice in some areas, and most likely people will get their first and second choice accommodation if they choose a university as their first choice. But it's just keeping an open mind with what's on offer. All the accommodation has to meet a certain standard, and all good accommodation that universities will have as part of that first year accommodation offer. With that as well, it's being aware of the university processes. So making sure that you know what the application process is. Majority of this now is done online. And when you can actually start applying. The accommodation teams are hot on it. They will, if they know that you are eligible to apply for accommodation, they'll contact you on your contact email address you've given the university. So make sure your email address is up to date and you're checking your junk folders. But also understand when you can apply and what's the situation from when you can apply. So we're just talking about it beforehand, but some universities will only let you apply for accommodation if you've made them your firm choice. Some might let you apply if you're an insurance choice. But again, that depends. It's not as common anymore. So just check that you understand when you're eligible to apply and don't get caught out. But also that means understanding your entitlements as well. A lot of people don't read the contracts, and it always blows my mind as to sort of why not with this, because actually, you're leasing this room effectively. You want to make sure that you know what your entitlements are. Some students get into the habit of thinking it's a 52-week year-round accommodation. It isn't. Usually the max contracts I've seen are for 48 weeks. Typically for NTU, that's 44 weeks. So, that means people have to go home at Christmas. They can't stay up in that accommodation over the summer. So if they're planning to stay in the city for summer work or summer work placements, for example, students will have to often either agree or make a separate arrangement with their accommodation provider or source alternative accommodation. This isn't only a negative thing. This could also be a good thing, because actually you might see more of what your entitlements could cover. Things like free internet, your utility bills could be included in this. The accommodation contract, you might get your contents insurance covered. There might be things like, you get access to certain facilities. There might be discount offers on, sort of retail bits in the city, for example. So yeah, just really go through those contracts and make sure you know what your entitlements are. I mentioned about contents insurance. Some accommodation providers do include it, and I was saying to Katie before, and that picture sort of illustrates the point. So that you can see in the picture there, you've got that girl who's got her kettle right next to her laptop, which is a bit precarious, isn't it? So 3 days in, a student spills water on a laptop. If they did it at home, they'd be covered under home contents insurance of their parent or guardian. And they find out suddenly they're not, because they've got contents insurance as part of this accommodation. So do make sure you know that, and do think about taking contents insurance out if you know that's not covered as part of your accommodation package. It is massively important, and it just gives you peace of mind.
Agreed.
Student services. So these are services that universities provide, free services, cover a range of different things that students can access at any point, and even after graduation as well. So it's important more than anything to familiarise yourself with all of these services. Employability, on the screen there, you can see that's one of them. Things like fees and finance to help students, budget, and also support them potentially if they fall into hardship. There's also disability support services as well. So for disability support services, that includes things like, learning differences, mental health conditions, and physical disabilities. So myself, I was diagnosed with dyslexia in college, and I had an educational psychologist assessment report that I was able to provide in advance to my university. So when I say that open dialogue before enrolment, that's a massive thing. So they were able to set up my requirements before I arrived at university. So I had a support worker to help me with my coursework. I had equipment to help me with my studies. So it's such an important thing. The earlier you can get your requirements over to them, if you have any special requirements that you need support with, the earlier they can put those arrangements in place. They're not there to pry into your personal details. They just want to make sure that you get that support in place before you start. I mean, if I didn't have that support in place when I started, I probably would have dropped out in December. There's no way I could have gotten with the coursework. It was so important for me. With things like employability and fees and funding and budgeting, and employability in particular, it's getting better, but we still find quite a few students do turn up 6 months before they graduate to employability and be like, I'm going to need a job, I'm graduating soon, can you help? And actually, if the students engage with them earlier on, from sort of first, second and third year, those employability team can do so much more for them in terms of helping them find work experience, placement opportunities, understand what they're enjoying in their course to see what they can turn it into in a graduate career, help them with part-time jobs, etc. Those sort of things. They're a great service, but I think people tend to access them a lot later than perhaps they otherwise would like. So my big tip would be access those services from day one, see what employability could do for you, help map out your career routes and get an idea of what you need to get into particular careers, and they can support you to get into them. Employability as well, not just available during a degree. Once you've graduated, you can get support on CV workshops. Also mock interviews as well is a big thing. And also they run sessions on how to get into particular careers as well for graduates. So it is really like a lifetime service once you've sort of been there as well. And it's free, like if you think of the number of times you can ask someone to, can you look over my CV for me? Like, actually, this is what these services offer. We've also got the Students' Union, and a lot of universities have Students' Union support. And the difference between sort of what Student Services and the Students' Union offer is that effectively Students' Union is peer-to-peer, so it's run by students for students. So if a student has a particular problem at university, 100% chance that the students running a students' union and offering those support services will have been through that problem as well and can help them with it. So sometimes if a student isn't potentially for whatever reason comfortable approaching university member of staff, they can go to the union, again, completely free, and they can get support and help with whatever they need. The Students' Union and the university support services always work together, so they'll always collaborate to help those students to find the best support for them. But again, it's all about making sure that students feel comfortable in accessing services, and that's what the union's there to really do. Last one is to really just to get an idea and get a bit of context onto the difference between studying at school and college and studying at university. It's a completely new learning environment, and it really is a focus on independent study. I mean, I'll put some of the terminology on the screen there, but like things like lectures, for example, so I've never done before. And lectures, best way I can describe it is like you go to a cinema and you're almost like 100 people in an audience, and there's an academic on with a screen behind them, like talking through a different topic about the subject that you're studying, taking notes, giving you sort of reading advice to sort of pursue further study for seminars. Some seminars following on for that are like classrooms, but they're a little bit smaller. So usually sort of 15 to 20 students talking about and debating a particular sort of topic within a course area. And with that as well, in terms of sort of independent study, you will be asked to do reading in advance of those seminars. If you haven't done the reading, it's completely a student's choice. But ultimately, the more you put into that, the more reading you do, the more you get out of it, and the better you get on with the course, really. Pardon me. Workshop and sort of, that includes like lab workshops as well. So that's more sort of engineering and tech focused and science-based courses. Tutorials at the minute, sort of like GCSE and college tutorials are more kind of like, classroom focused, a class tutor. This is actually one-to-one. So actually tutorials are with your academic support tutors, and they will work with you to explore any problems you're having on the course, anything you'd like to talk over, any work you'd like to sort of run past them, etc. That's effectively half an hour, 45 minutes with them to sort of, have that personal one-to-one time. So there is a real focus on independent study. You're not spoon-fed the information. You're expected to do the reading for the course in advance. You're expected to do the work and meet the deadlines on time. Nobody's going to be on at you to sort of meet these deadlines. You're not going to get sort of in detention, etc. It's effectively, if you don't do the work, you get a lower score than everyone else. But it's up to you as to how much or how little you do. And really, just skipping ahead to that final point about thinking about the wider benefits for this approach of independent study, it's because we're trying to prepare these students for the world of work afterwards. We're trying to make them more organized, self-starting, being able to sort of work independently, creatively on their own, work as part of a team for sort of group work as well. There's a lot of group work activities as part of this, but to be able to sort of like really sort of get along well independently, and that's what the things that employers are looking for, really. So that's what we try and do to get them in that mindset. We also want to make sure that we can help prepare them for this. So we've got orienteering and induction sessions during the first week when students start. Primarily, they're run by sort of the library, so they include things like how to navigate, logging on to sort of the computer in the library, taking books, accessing journals, things that might sound dead simple, but actually, until you know how to do them, they're still a little bit challenging. But in addition to that, they've got things like sessions on how to structure essays and how to write essays. They've got sessions on how to reference to a university sort of standard, like Harvard referencing, you might have heard of. So these are things that might catch students out. They've never done them before, but actually they're free sessions. The library put them on. They're there for at the start, running multiple times over the course of the first 2 weeks of time. So my big recommendation is students to use those to actually get up to speed, take as many sort of free sessions as possible, and then just enjoy it. Flow with the work, really. And then the final point I want to make before I shut up, you'll be glad to know, is to sort of utilize the tutor's office hours. So those tutorials that I mentioned, the one-to-one time with academics, you find that some academics will have times where they're available to either sort of do Teams calls, have emails, but also some academics do drop-in sessions where you can see them face-to-face. So making sure that students are aware of when those times are, because those that one-to-one time is precious, I'd say, and it's really key time for students to talk about any challenges that happen at work on the course, maybe something they're not quite understanding, or something that they might want a different perspective on a piece of work that they want to bring to that session. So making sure that those students are aware of their availability and making sure they utilize those. And that is, on that grand bombshell, everything. Thank you so much for listening. That's a bit of a whistle-stop tour, but happy to answer any questions that you might have on anything that I've said or anything you might be bringing to this session.
Amazing. Thanks so much for that, Dave. So yeah, the URL that you can see on the screen, I forgot what it was called then. I was like, the words. the short URL that you can see on the screen now. So if you just type that into your search bar, you'll be able to go to our parents and carers kind of hub, where we've got loads of information. You can download our guide and things like that, everything from applying to uni. You can find out more information there. Just to add on from what Dave said then, I think there's a lot of stuff once you've kind of been through the university process that now I look back to, like I say, before I started, and you were talking about dissertation and seminar, you forget that that's not a common vocabulary. It is a big difference, especially from A-level learning and level 3 qualifications to university is a big stretch. So it's good to get to know a little bit to help your dependents. So we've got a few questions, so we'll pop them on the screen and then we'll have a go at answering them. Okay. So do single parents on benefits have to pay $9,000 a year for uni? So if you want any help on any specific sort of financial questions, our finance team will be happy to help you. Oh, look at that. It's like I'm on the news. It's if by magic. So I've got on the screen now. So that says financial, wait for it comes back on, don't say it wrong, financial.support.nt.ac.uk. So if you email your questions over to them, they'll be happy to help and give you some more tailored information. They're the best place to go. Our team are absolutely fantastic. We had David and Dave on our live a few weeks ago. That was great for information, and you can actually rewatch that live, which is on our YouTube channel if you want to find out more information about student finance as well. But if you go to the email address on the bottom, they'll definitely be able to help you with that one.
Just to say with that one as well, there's a lot of scholarship. There's things called scholarships and bursaries available from universities, depending on your financial circumstances. So when you're looking at universities, if you type into the search engine of any university scholarships and bursaries, it'll bring up what their financial support packages are. So you'll be able to see if your family income meets a certain threshold or you meet a certain criteria. You could get money off your university course costs, or you could get money in bursaries. That's called a scholarship, money off your course costs. That could knock down your course costs to something like $7,000 a year, let's say. But also you could get bursaries, which is free money paid directly into your bank account to help with sort of living costs and maintenance costs from the university. Again, depending on your financial circumstances. So check that out, but definitely email financial support at NTU because they're great, really, really great service. Yeah, they'll be able to put you on all the information about the bursaries and everything like that. Yeah, really, really helpful. They'll just be able to tailor more information to you than a general statement we can give. So brilliant. So we'll move on to the next question. Also, just want to say, if we haven't got around to answering your questions, it might have been that we've already answered them previously in the live through the presentation. So you can always rewatch it. But that might be one of the reasons that we don't have time for your questions today. So
What are your top tips when helping your child decide between universities? Thank you very much for this question, Emily. Dave, do you have any top tips for helping your child decide?
Easy one is to get to as many open days, or what's called offer holder days, as possible. So the open days are ones that you sort of go to before the application deadlines. After that point, universities switch to, like, if you've chosen your 5 choices, they'll do offer holder days. If this is more kind of like you're struggling to narrow down your 5 choices for the university, what I'd say is a couple of things. It's a bit of a cop out. It depends on you and your dependent and your child as to sort of what they're really sort of looking for. So I guess a lot of it is going to depend on like how do students rate the university. So there's like sort of what uni, there's websites like What Uni that you can look on to see how do students themselves rate the university, their facilities, their teaching, the student experience, the student life. So actually, as a general, what's this university like to be a student for? Then that's usually a good website to start and say What Uni is pretty good. Then you're getting into things like what's the sort of like progression rate into graduate jobs from the course? What opportunities for sort of placements and work experience do these universities offer as part of this course? Because obviously, with this, a lot of people are, there's 2 types of students really in terms of their what they're picking the university course for. One, it's a stepping stone to get them into the career they want to get into. The other side of that is they just enjoy the course, they got a passion for it, and they want to go to university. So it's basically determining what sort of meets requirements for both. So if it's the job that's the long-term aim, which university is got the connections to get them into that career, the placement opportunities, etc. It's more a passion and they just love studying that course, then I guess it's more around the what's the best student experience, where's consistently doing well in terms of like student city to study in, those sort of things really. And then I guess it comes back to how far do they want to move away from home. There's universities in Aberdeen, there's universities in Plymouth, isn't there, far north, far south. And are they commuting are you looking to commute to university as well? I mean, that's another option. We've seen more students commute now, in terms of sort of to save money and using their maintenance loan for commuting. So again, those sort of things really, so many different options. There's loads of sort of self-help guides out there as well, I'd say. And I think we've got some NTU guides on our webpage as well, and sort of tips out of the university. I think there's one of the videos is choosing a university. So definitely head to that webpage I mentioned earlier in the presentation.
Might come across the bottom in a sec, ntu.ac. No, it is. Yeah, definitely. I think if you're looking into universities as well, and your universities are on par, looking at the student city is a huge thing. How far away they're going to be from home, what's the commuting like to get there and back. My parents set me a time limit of 2 hours, and I was not allowed to move anywhere further than that, as they didn't want to have to come cart my stuff back all the time. So that is just something to massively bear in mind. There's so much stuff outside going to university. So looking at what kind of things the city offers for the student. Is it a big student city? Is it big city? Is it a bit smaller? What kind of things do they enjoy? And do the city offer that as well as the university? That's what I think is a good thing to bear in mind. So I think we've only got one more question left. Oh, Rebecca and Jamie, that was a great overview. Thank you. Oh, well, thank you very much for that. Dave did do very well. How can you fit so much information into 6 slides? You are a magician. You've got all the information out. You could. There's a lot.
I talk too much. That's my problem.
To be fair, it's nice when I was sat there. I was like, oh, I don't need to say anything to that. He's office cover that. Great. I'll just sit here. And enjoy. But brilliant. Thank you so much for that comment, Rebecca. And it's really appreciated. And we love doing these lives. It's great to pass on the information, and whether it be about personal statements or just the different names of stuff, the university teaching styles. It's great to be able to get that information out there to for people that are unsure. So thank you very much for that. So yeah, that is everything that we have time for this evening. And thank you very much, Dave, for that fantastic presentation. It is very, very insightful, and you'll be able to rewatch it back if anybody wants any more information. So yeah, just to cover that it will be posted on our YouTube channel. If you just head into our videos section, you can rewatch the live, you can show it to somebody that you might be interested in seeing. You might be able to rewatch it with your dependents to pass on more information. So yeah, the video is always going to be there for you to watch back over. So Again, Dave, thank you very much for this evening. I'm sure we'll see you again on here now as the presentation expert, and yeah, we look forward to that next time. Brilliant.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks everyone for watching, and have a lovely rest of your evening. See you later. Bye.
Bye. Take